Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our virtual Meet the Expert workshop. My name's Stefan, and I'm part of the My World of Work Live team here at Skills Development Scotland. My World of Work Live is about helping you to understand future careers and what skills these careers may require. So in today's session, we're going to cover a quick overview of the construction sector. We're going to have a look at some of the opportunities within the sector, and then I'm going to introduce you to our expert for today, John Thompson of Turner in Dundee. I would just like to let you know that today's session is being recorded so that anybody who could not make it can still access the resources, and they can do so by visiting the My World of Work YouTube channel. That means that you can go back and re-watch anything as well if you maybe want to re-listen to a point or pick up something that John has maybe mentioned today. So just before I do introduce you to today's expert, let's have a little look at some of the information for the sector. There are 150,400 people currently working in engineering and construction, and a further 30,000 people in other types of manufacturing roles across Scotland. Over 7,500 jobs will be created between 2021 and 2024 in Scotland as well. There are also currently 36,928 modern apprentices working within the engineering in Scotland. And a few of the different career paths like air conditioning and refrigerator engineering. So you've got air conditioning engineer, and we've got a typical average salary, manufacturing systems engineer, heating and ventilation engineer, gas service technician, smart meter installer, and this might now moving forward involve things like electric cars installers and things like that as well, and rail engineering technicians as well. So hopefully this gives you just a very quick insight into the sector and how people are going to need to have those sort of skill sets going forward. And just finally, before I now introduce you to John, I'm just going to give you a brief insight into who John Thompson is. So John is 37 years old and has spent his entire life in Dundee. He left school at 16 and completed a 4-year apprenticeship in plastering and construction industry. He was in this job until he was about 30, when he then retrained as an apprentice refrigeration engineer. And John has actually been awarded some big achievements in terms of the Silver Trowel Award in plastering, and he's also earned multiple awards throughout his apprenticeships as well. So some of the key points that John would make, and John has said to me, is that learning how to do things helps you also in your everyday life. Daily travelling allows him to meet new people from all different walks of life and backgrounds. And when he's working hard, this all pays off in terms of letting him live that balanced life and afford the things that he would like. So I'm now just going to introduce you to John Thompson.
Hi there, my name is John Thompson, as Stefan says. I'm a refrigeration engineer and I work for a small family-run business in Dundee called Turner Dundee. My role is to go out on the field, install, service and maintain a variety of commercial refrigeration and air conditioning equipment. A typical day for me is to arrive at my office, complete any necessary paperwork, order any spare parts for any outstanding or incomplete jobs, load up the van with relevant tools and equipment and head out to site to do those repairs. Some examples of the installations are refrigerated cold rooms. There may be some of them in your school today, where it keeps all the food and all the juice and drinks. Freezer rooms, display cabinets, air conditioning systems. We also service and maintain these as well as other refrigerated units such as bottle coolers. You may not know about this, but some bottle coolers in bars and stuff like that, but I'm sure you'll come across these sometime in your life. And ice machines. Everyone loves icing their drinks, especially on holiday. Although my travel or work is generally within a 60-mile radius, which is quite small, but this sector of the industry that I'm in, I can literally take it anywhere in the world. It's happening all over the world. I would describe myself as fairly down to earth, very hands-on, creative, quite sporty, honest, reliable, fairly determined. That's all I name a few though. When I was at school, I loved maths. Craft design technology, PE, a lot of sports, football, badminton, running, rollerblading and stuff like that, but that was a long time ago. I left school in 4th year at the age of 16 and went straight into the building industry, as Stephen says, completing a plastering apprenticeship, which consisted of attending college on block release for a couple of years, and then finally, excuse me, sitting a 2-year skills test at the end of the 4th year. And I done that from the age of 16 to 30. Then I found the opportunity to start a new career again, to retrain, so I became an apprentice refrigeration engineer. Although I had understanding in the construction industry, I still felt I knew very little about the refrigeration sector. I completed my apprenticeship by going back to college and retraining for a full 3 years. And then in your 3rd year at college, you determine whether you go down the refrigeration path or the air conditioning path, so you're divided between those two sectors. But now I'm 7 years into the world of refrigeration. Throughout my time in my current job, I've entered refrigeration challenges and competitions which have taken me all the way around the UK, such as in-house college competitions, regionals, where Britain was divided into 3 sections, and I competed in the northern section of Britain. And then that taken me to a big finals competition down in Birmingham, where everyone in the UK competes from all different trades all around the UK. And that sort of competition, they call it the World Skills, the Olympics. You can they travel all around the world. They've been to places such as Rio, Russia, China, to name a few. There's a few things that I absolutely love about my job. Learning new things, like Stefan says, in everyday life. It helps you complete things around the home, DIY tasks. You have a whole tool set behind you, auto repairs, other various things, tips and tricks all the time. I always get to travel around, meet new people, get to see new things. We do a lot of hotel work, bar work. So you get to see where there's nice places, a lot of places you've probably never even heard of. We carry a lot of work out in the food and drink related establishments. We get to see exciting new places, a lot of scenery, doing a lot of travelling. From the beginning of I've met great people who have been super supportive from day one, when I really didn't know anything about refrigeration. I love completing a nice, neat, tidy job and realising that hard work really does pay off, and buying things that you never thought you would dream of having. I just recently bought a high-end sports car, so I'm super chuffed with that. It gets you somewhere. Some of the skills and requirements that are required for the job, I would say, are a good understanding of physics. We deal a lot with pressure, temperature, volume, which are all related. Good maths, great communication between people, with the customers and the team that you work with. Being honest and friendly gets you along in life so much easier than being nasty. Generally keeping your core strength up. You don't have to be fit and healthy going to the gym all the time, just generally keep yourself fit and well. Sometimes I can be lifting a lot of tools and equipment, dragging them along the city centre, which can be a stressful job in itself, and that's not even including the job getting done. And when the time comes, a driving licence is quite handy as well. It's a major factor in that industry. The business of heat and ventilation, refrigeration, air conditioning, my job is specifically just one role in refrigeration, but there are hundreds of job roles from, I can't even think of any, there are far too many. We are governed by one big body called the Institute of Refrigeration, and they determine what happens in the world of refrigeration. We're trying to, they change the laws to help fight against global warming and keep air quality and high standard in many places such as schools and offices. So that's pretty much about me. Back over to Stefan.
Thank you, John. So really interesting there, and lots of really valuable information. So one of the questions, John, that has been asked, do you get to work as part of a team, or do you work like mostly by yourself, really?
A lot of the time we go out our separate ways and work individually, but there's a lot of times where we may do some installations and we team up. There could be 2 of us or 3 of us, and we all work together to do some larger projects. So there's a good blend of both there. There's always support behind you. You always have a phone call that you can call people for assistance, or your team members and stuff. So yeah, a mixture of both.
Excellent. And John, one of the things as well, like you have touched on it in terms of like what skills are important to do your job. So you'd mentioned like being reliable, hard work and things like that. What other skills would you say are important for you to do your job effectively?
a lot of the time I feel under pressure. So a lot of people can get frustrated and flustered with that. You just have to calm yourself down and always go back to basics. Do a step-by-step process. Get into that routine. Yeah, and definitely your core strength is a major factor. And then don't get too many points on your driving license when you have that.
Steph, there, good piece of advice, I think, even out with this session. So, in terms of those skills, John, so again, you've actually mentioned about your skill set and how you could maybe do like some DIY around the house and working with like the cars and things like that. So these skills are obviously transferable. How do you utilize those skills by doing your own sort of tasks around the house and on your car?
Some people would rather work 2-3 days to go take their car for a service. I've just been lucky that I've been a very hands-on person. I have a little bit of a bonus by having a construction previous history, so I've been quite lucky to renovate a lot of my homes and do some installations, new bathrooms, make some of the walls look a bit prettier than all grubby Victorian looking walls.
So to be honest, John, you'll probably have a few people calling you looking for jobs done now after this as well. So
no comment.
No comment. So John, in terms of the refrigeration units, or like, so would you install them, or do you get the like service and install them, or how does that work?
There's a lot of just service and maintenance, but occasionally we do get the new installations. They're personally my favourite. So there's a brand new build, say for example a walk-in cold room or a freezer room, and you install all the equipment. People in our office, they'll measure up all the equipment, what's specified for that job, and we'll go in with all the tools and stuff, and then put it in as neat and tidy as we can, and get it up and running, fully commissioned. And then carry out hopefully a service and maintenance contract to keep it in good condition.
Brilliant. And say for example, you're going out to a larger job, like you mentioned about going out to schools and stuff. Is that something that you would be able to do yourself, or do you need to would you have an apprentice with you helping you or anything like that?
Apprentices always go out with another engineer until we feel that they're competent. And then eventually later on in their apprenticeship, they can go out on their own. They'll have their own van, and we'll let them out and see how they get on with that. A lot of times, schools isn't really that a bigger place, to be honest with you. There are much bigger places. Yeah, you can easily go out on your own because there's a lot of smaller fridges. There's a lot of small packages in places like schools and bars and things like that as well.
Yeah, and you had said there obviously about like bigger places and schools. Like, what type of bigger places would there be that you could get out to do jobs?
Some things that are on top of my head, we don't deal with these specifically, but supermarket equipment is, we call that industrial equipment. It's very big, and supermarkets have their own independent companies who service and maintain their products.
Right, okay.
There are fruit farms and that as well. Fruit farms have a lot of big equipment to try and bring down the temperature of the fruit that's been harvested very quickly and get it out to the supermarkets and suppliers.
Okay, and you had said as well, John, about obviously your specific skill set. Like, you can take that anywhere in the world. Like, could you tell me a bit more about, like, I know you're obviously based in Dundee, but if you wanted to maybe go elsewhere, like, how would that work?
I've been on holiday a few times. I've been to Dubai a couple of times, and I've seen many of air conditioning engineers. You can imagine it's 50 degrees in Dubai at peak summertime, so air conditioning is a mandatory. Some of the people who I also went to college with, they've told me about they've had to get on a helicopter to go to some islands to do some service work for companies. There's the heating and ventilation industry is quite big on offshore. We've made air conditioning packages that have been sent away on a boat and shipped over to Australia to go work offshore. Yeah, offshore is a major one as well. Yeah, all around the world there is air conditioning and refrigeration, and you probably wouldn't even realise it's right in front of your face half the time.
To be honest, I'm sitting in a dining room here, and I could be doing with air conditioning right now as well. So John, in terms of like you being in Dundee, did you study in Dundee, or could you do this type of qualification anywhere?
The qualification, I'm assuming, will be pretty much worldwide, but focusing in the UK, I had to go to Glasgow, so I travelled to do my block releases and just stayed through in Glasgow because it was over 60 miles away. I think there was a school in Aberdeen, so that's the only two that I know of in Scotland, and the rest will be in England, Grimsby, probably London and other surrounding places.
Brilliant. I think that's really valuable to know as well, where you could study this, so thank you for that. So John, you had mentioned as well, and I had mentioned at the beginning about a couple of your competitions. Like, what type of things did you have to do in these competitions?
I'll talk about the biggest one. So there is an annual World Skills UK competition. So they divide the schools up and they'll pick maybe 2 or 3 of the best, and they will go and compete in different regions. So they'll divide Britain into 3 sections. And then you basically get, if you compete well enough, you get put into the final. I went down to the Birmingham NEC finals for the World Skills UK, and you compete over a 2-day course. They give you a lot of technical and basically the same stuff that you go through in college. You have to write up diagrams and things like that. But there are trades from places like helicopter making, butchery, gardening. Every trade you can pretty much think of is under one roof, and they're all competing. It's a crazy couple of days, but yeah, I would also recommend it to anyone. So much fun.
Brilliant. I think obviously if it's fun and stuff, it's definitely something worth trying.
Certainly an eye-opener.
So John, obviously with the COVID pandemic, it's really affected a lot of industries, and it's affected everybody individually in their own way. But were you still going out during lockdown? Like, were you classed as an essential worker, or again, how did that work?
Yeah, some form of essential worker. Yeah, people still needed their fridges fixed, and there was a lot of places where if fridges go down, then some places have to close. The restaurants and things like that, so it's quite detrimental to them. Our company specifically, we wound down and we just left one engineer running for a couple of months, and then we slowly worked back up from there.
Right,
yeah,
okay.
it was quite a big blow to the whole of the world, pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely. And how did you deal with the pandemic personally? Like, did you spend a lot of time working from home and stuff? Because I personally, I can't imagine you getting to do a lot at home with your job being so hands-on.
That's right, yeah. I was still out in the field. I treated it, I'll say, being as safe as I can, mask wearing, keeping your tools clean, sanitised, and also your hands as well. Still went out and just took great care, and I've just been super lucky that I hadn't contracted COVID so far. So yeah, it was quite scary to begin with because the whole world was shutting down, but I think people ease off a bit from there and hopefully not be so scared of it.
Yeah, definitely. And you're saying the whole world shutting down, even if the refrigerators were shutting down stuff, you had to be there to make sure they didn't do that. So, and John, you had mentioned as well about going back and retraining. Obviously, you had mentioned about doing the plastering and construction industry first and then retraining. How did you find returning to college later on in your career to retrain?
This was one thing I was wanting to talk about, but I didn't feel I had enough time, but I'm glad I'm getting a chance now. Also, I retrained when I was 30, and I feel a lot of people, as they grow older, they don't feel that they've got as much opportunity to go out and do something. What I didn't really know what was out there when I was 16. I did want to go into the construction industry, and now I'm 37 years old. I still don't know half the jobs that are out there. Yeah, I would like to encourage governing bodies or whoever deals with this to even get people who are a slightly bit older into retraining and even getting them into doing something that they really want to do that they never realised what was out there in the first place. But yeah, never ever give up and just keep fighting for what that you want to do. Don't get stuck in a place where you don't want to be.
Excellent. And when you went back to retrain as well, John, how did you feel at that time? Like, were you going into a class with younger people, or were you going into a class of like adults as well, or what way did that work out for you?
There was a separate adult course, but I went into the class with, I was quite lucky. My year, I obviously was the oldest person there at 30, but there was people from, say, 16 to 22, 23. So it was quite a good range, and I settled in well. I'm probably a bit more immature than some of the other people. But yeah, I blended in really well. And the class, the year below me, they were a lot of youngsters. Most of them were just fresh out of school, so I don't know how we would have got on with them. But no, I absolutely loved going back to college. I would do it again in a heartbeat. I think the older you are, you get a little bit more wiser and understandable, and be a bit more methodical in how you interpret things.
Brilliant. And you had mentioned earlier as well, John, that you didn't actually know an awful lot about refrigeration. Like, are there any skills that you had brought over from your plastering and construction days to that role?
It probably sounds silly, but even generally being able to use certain hand tools, like cutting a piece of wood with a saw, sounds like such a simple task, but the amount of times that people cut, it goes all the way to, it's like cutting cheese, using screwdrivers, basic hand tools. Yeah. When I first went, I thought, it's a fridge. You open the fridge and your food's cold, or you open your freezer and you grab some ice or whatever. But there's so much more to things that you wouldn't really believe what was going on behind all that. But yeah, it's really super interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you had said, ice quite important, especially in the summer. Like, I don't know any barbecues without ice, so obviously really important. But I think it's really interesting as well, obviously hearing that side of your job, because obviously it's not something that many of us have actually ever heard of, really. So obviously getting to hear that. And John, is there any, like, in any of the industries that you have worked, do you think that getting a driver's license earlier is better?
The quicker you get on the road and settled in and getting familiar with how the roads work, your road appreciation, your driving, growing your confidence on the road, the quicker the better. The longer you leave it, the more fearful you become of it. The older you get, generally the more fearful. The younger you are, the less fear you have. That's how it works, I think.
Yeah, so just jumping in, and I think that sort of comes back to you being hands-on as well, so you would get stuck in and just see where it goes, really. John, with every job, obviously there's parts that we enjoy, parts we maybe don't enjoy as much. So what would you say are the most enjoyable parts of your job?
Most enjoyable, I think. Sorry, that's the doorbell. The enjoyable parts are going out and meeting friendly faces. We go to a lot of returning customers, and so you're getting to catch up with them, see what they've been up to, asking about how their life's getting on, what holidays they've been on, just common chat, getting to a job, completing it successfully, and leaving as two happy people. And it's just generally getting on with life. That's the best. There are also downfalls to working as well. Sometimes you have a bad day, you're upset, you're frustrated, things don't go according to plan. It's one of these difficult times you have to get. There's some people you don't get on with. Some people are just generally nasty to you. They're wanting things done yesterday. You have to overcome that. Just brush it aside, and then just focus on what you're there and what you need to do, and just leave in a professional manner.
Yeah, and when you're obviously saying being nasty, I'm just mindful, obviously. Is this customers that are maybe quite abrupt towards you when you're doing your job, or is this like team members?
No, not really team members, because they understand that the position and the pressure that you're in to try and get people's equipment up and running. Some people can have equipment where it's not working and it can hold some of their stock that can lead up to thousands of pounds, so they feel under pressure as well. You can understand why, but they're concerned about losing a fortune essentially, and they're hoping we're their last hope. But then they're just worried. That's all.
Yeah, and I think like the reason I wanted to just clear that up is obviously because we get customers in every walk of life, really, and obviously you can get abrupt customers in pretty much any aspect of life. So I just wanted to clear up, because if I was a young person, I was thinking about this as a career, I wouldn't want to be put off thinking that the team members can be nasty and stuff like that as well. So thank you for clearing that up, John.
Yep, all the people that I've been introduced throughout into the world of refrigeration I've been actually blown away by how supportive they've been. I've been given people's phone numbers, been able to go out and meet people to get advice, support, especially the college. They've been unbelievable. Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. The people from the Institute of Refrigeration, the governing body of refrigeration, super nice, super helpful. I've met them. I've managed to attend a few dinners where I've received some awards and given out an award as well. And it's a full-blown dinner where you're wearing a tuxedo. It's a proper nice meal where all suppliers and that meet up and then network.
Network, good. And John, what sort of distances like do you cover? Like I know when you were studying, you had mentioned about going to Glasgow and stuff, but now that you're working, do you get to go any like further? Do you go further afield or?
No, our radius, we don't really generally go too far. We could travel up to 60 miles to do a job, but much further than that, it's not really feasible for us, just because we're such a small business. There are companies out there who travel nationwide, but we just don't have the infrastructure for that.
Yeah, and obviously I would be thinking obviously there's enough work anyway around the likes of like Dundee, Perth and stuff like that to save you having to travel to the likes of Glasgow anyway.
Yeah, there's lots of companies in some of the bigger cities in Scotland. Yeah, and there's a few companies that are around us too that we've all got our own customers and stuff. So yeah, we've got on really well.
Brilliant. And John, it's that time of year where young people start thinking as well about the subjects. One of the questions that has come in, what advice would you give to me as a young person making subject choices?
It's quite a difficult one. I remember being at school and I wasn't too sure what I was wanting to do. Like I says, you don't really know what's out there, and a lot of people don't know what they want to do. Do they want to stay on and go to university or college? But yeah, get your really focus. Maths and English are obviously your top priorities, and then you divide it into if you want to go into, say, for example, refrigeration. Certainly go down the physics route if you want to go into science. Knuckle down on biology and stuff like that. Yeah, PE, just generally keep yourself in good condition, stay fit and healthy.
And can I just check?
Sorry, IT skills are probably an up and coming priority as well. There's a lot of things that are online.
Brilliant, yeah, definitely. And can I just check then with like what transferable skills would you say you use the most often in your job?
I generally try and treat people the way I want to be treated. So if I want to speak to someone nasty, I expect to be talked back that way. But yeah, I just like having a nice friendly nature and having an easy life where I can go and catch up with people and just have no issues at all. That's an ideal world for me.
Yeah.
I quite like giving out my tips and tricks on how I get around things in life. So any experiences that I've come across, I'd like to transfer them across to other people. And some people don't really like to listen these days, but yeah, I'm there to be supportive as best I can, and that's what I'm there for.
Brilliant. So you're quite chilled out, excuse the pun. So
yeah, I'm quite cool.
Good. And John, in terms of obviously who has influenced you really for your career, have you had any big like role models or key influencers? I can't really think of anyone off the top of my head that have been super influenced, but yeah, just the company I work for, like it's a small family-run business that I'm falling into that family as well. Yeah, the college has just been super helpful. I still feel quite new and fresh into this industry. I know it's been 7 years now since day one, but yeah, I can't really think of any top influencers at the moment. Oh, that's absolutely fine. And with your job role as well, John, like I can only imagine that you have to keep with the times and stuff because technology obviously changes at rapid paces and stuff. So do you have to keep learning and completing professional qualifications?
You are always told, because we're in the industry, we're always usually on top of what's changing, what's going to happen. I say one of the roles that's in the world of refrigeration, they're manufacturers. They make these air conditioning units, refrigeration systems, and they make it for a lot of times they're generally getting smaller, and there's a lot of microprocessors and printed circuit boards that are in it, so they're quite disposable stuff, but that's forever changing. That means that the older stuff becomes obsolete, so there's usually times to make things brand new again, reinstall new equipment.
Right, and what you had mentioned as well previously about obviously IT, like, do you have to like have an element of like being able to code or anything like that with the types of jobs you do?
Not code specifically, but we use a lot of. If you were to walk up to a fridge, you would expect to see a display where it shows you, I'm a fridge, I'm at 2 degrees, or I'm a freezer at -18. So
Yeah.
these things need to be programmed first. So it's just I'd say a simple level of being able to control that and allow the fridge or freezer to operate as it should. We're telling the controller what to do.
Right, okay. Yeah, so it's just really giving it that instruction to carry out and execute this.
Yeah, so pretty much my phone and Google is my best friend. So when I'm out on site and I'm trying to fault find I'm always on that trying to find the manuals for different controllers and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's pretty amazing to obviously hear that you would turn to Google as well for things like that, because it just shows how much information is online.
Every day.
So in terms of, John, like at the very start, I had shown a couple of different sort of average salaries. Like, in your own personal opinion, what would you say is more important, job satisfaction or pay?
If you are terrible at your job, then I would forget about the pay, because you're probably going to get another job that's maybe slightly reduced. I think refrigeration is a well-paid job. I've seen people from minimum wage right up to, I've seen engineers blatantly ask, I won't come to you unless you pay me £50,000 a year. And it sounds like £1,000 a week sounds like a hell of a lot of money, but I would prioritise into knuckling down, getting knowledge under your belt and before you start talking about money. But yeah, that's probably about the ranges that I've seen so far in my life. I'm sure there are people on more who own businesses.
Yeah, so it sounds like that sort of work-life balance for you would be a better way of approaching it.
It's probably because I'm older, I would take a pay reduction to have a better life. That's the way I see life.
Amazing, thank you for that. And John, obviously, like I've only got a couple more questions coming in here for you as well. So what is the most important thing that I, as a young person, I should consider if I wanted to work as a refrigeration engineer?
Do well in college and in school. A driving license is definitely a must, as I said earlier on. Yeah, I would look into physics, and there are hundreds of videos on YouTube and stuff. I use YouTube religiously as well, just to find out how refrigeration and air conditioning generally works. And that's a great tool to get you started, and then you can start putting CVs in and stuff to companies. I'm not pointing out, when people talk about engineers and the construction industry, the majority of it is males, but in the refrigeration industry, they are pushing for females to come forward as well. So I really want to encourage them to get involved, not just being an engineer, but in every aspect of the refrigeration industry. And that's something that I see every single day on social media and stuff.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's a very, very good point that you do make there. Obviously, it is something that, as an organisation as well, like you would like to see more females going into engineering and things like that, and vice versa. Same with like males going into care and things like that as well. So, very, very good point, John. So, if you could go back in time, John, and speak to your 13-year-old self, would you tell yourself anything different or do anything different?
I would say be kind to people, and I would probably give myself a set of unique lottery numbers. Yeah, just keep your head down, do well, be kind to people, and just continue working hard. Give yourself a better life.
Brilliant. And you've mentioned, John, throughout the session quite a bit about college. So one of the questions that like the young people would like to know as well, can you do an apprenticeship to get into this type of role as well?
Yes, it's mandatory. You must do the apprenticeship because we deal with high pressure systems and electrics, but you're trained upon that, as through your apprenticeship, how to deal with that. So yeah, it's quite important. Health and safety is the #1 priority as soon as you leave that door.
And would you have to? So you'd actually obviously said there that an apprenticeship is mandatory. Is this not something that you would do at college, or is college more like theory based, or what would be the difference there?
When you go to college, it is. I think there are older courses, but yeah, to get into become a refrigeration engineer, I'm pretty sure that you have to go through the college to get your qualifications. There may be other ways I'm not really too sure off the top of my head, but yeah, an apprenticeship is definitely the way to go.
Brilliant. And John, I've just got 2 more questions for you here just before we wrap up the session. Can your job be a dangerous job? Obviously, you did mention there about health and safety being paramount. So, like, can it be a dangerous job?
Absolutely. I've been to places where the previous person or something's happened and there's been live cables lurking up into roof spaces, and you don't realise that until you're up there. Yeah. Like I said, we deal with some refrigeration systems, but high pressure systems, so you don't really want that blowing in your face.
Yeah.
Some of the bigger systems in the industry, they are refrigerant it's not toxic. It can leave you if you're stuck in a room with pure refrigerant, can cause asphyxiation, heart palpitations. So yeah, it can be risky at times, but you train to deal with that and know to understand what to look out for.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. And John, final question for you today. Are there opportunities when you're in the industry to progress or maybe work towards like higher level roles?
Yeah, you can climb the ladder and go pretty much anywhere you want. I don't know what the highest ladder would be, but certainly getting involved with the Institute of Refrigeration would certainly help you, and people within there would help you along your way. You can go to companies where they supply the equipment, or you can go down purely to establish your own business. It's up to yourself.
Amazing. Thank you, John. So just for everybody watching, if you would like to know more information about the type of role that John does, or you would like to find out about other roles within the engineering and construction industry, you can find out more about these type of careers at www.myworldofwork.co.uk. You'll find loads of different information there that can help you make choices about your career, but also if you're looking for some further inspiration or tools to try and help guide you as well. If you do want to learn more about apprenticeships, again, you could check out some apprenticeships along the lines of what is on the screen there as well. You can do this at apprenticeships.scot. And for anything digital, you can check out digitalworld.net. You also have the option to speak to your school careers advisor, as they will have much more information and guidance there to help support you on your education and career journey. So that's us come to the end of the session today. I would first like to just take this opportunity to say a huge thank you to John Thompson from Turner for taking the time to join us. And I feel like we've got through so many questions there today, which is absolutely fantastic as well. Personally, I found it really interesting, and I hope that you have as well. And thank you as well to everybody that has taken the time to join us today. As mentioned at the beginning of the session, it has been recorded, so you can view it as many times as you would like at a later date, really, or if there's something you would maybe like to watch again that John has mentioned, you can do so on the My World of Work YouTube channel. Once again, thank you for joining us today. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day.